Right, welcome back to yet another episode of ABCD, Anybody Can Do. Well, today I want to talk about to write the chapter number 3, the research methodology. Well, once we are done with the introduction chapter, once we are done with the literature review chapter, the next important part comes up in framing out my chapter number 3. Well, that is research methodology. I'm going to discuss with you in very brief the skeleton of the structure of the chapter number 3. Well, as you see, it talks about research methodology. Well, here you have to embed the aspect of your research in total to make the reader and yourself also understand how have you conducted your study and why. Justification. All right? Like we can start the chapter with an introduction of research. What is a research? Then you can come up with the philosophies of research. Talk about in details what philosophies are there in research. And then justify what philosophy have you selected for your study. You can talk about all the epistemologies of research and justify the epistemology that you have selected for the study. Then you talk about the research onion, describe the research onion, okay, with the diagram and explain the components of that research onion and how that's linked with your study. Then you can talk about your methodology. Is it a quantitative research? Is it a qualitative research? Or is it a mixed method research? Which one have you opted and why? You can also explain what are quantitative research, what do you mean by qualitative research, and what you also mean by a mixed method. But then you have to justify which one have you selected for your study. Then you talk about your conceptual framework, which is very important. Now, the conceptual framework should match, the independent variable of the conceptual framework should match with your objectives. So you have your independent variable, maybe 3, 4, 5, 6, and you have your dependent variable. Explain this conceptual framework. Just make sure every independent variable in your conceptual framework must be measurable. Okay? Then you talk about what is the population of your study. That means who are your respondents, which is very important to identify. Think about your title very carefully and think who should be the right person, the right group to respond to your questionnaires. That we talk about the population of the study, the unit of analysis. Then from that, how you have chosen the sample size. On what basis? What formula did you adapt in choosing your sample size? Could be a sample size calculator, could be the Yemen's formula. What have you actually done to get to that magical figure of your sample? You must explain that. At times we see the population is not so big. Maybe the population is 200, 250, 300, for example. In those certain situations, I would recommend not to go for a sample size because the population itself is so small that a census could have been done. So you can say that since the total population, for example, for my study is 275, so the researcher designed it to be done on a census basis, not a sample to be done. Because as itself, the 250, 275, 300, 350 are itself too few a number, for example, to do a sample on that one. Okay? Then you can talk about the justification of the sample size. You talk about your questionnaire. How did you design your questionnaire? Is it a 5-point questionnaire, Likert scale, a 7-point Likert scale? Explain why. You talk about how would you collect your data? What sampling would you use to collect your data and why? That's important. Make sure your questionnaire has all the components which are in alignment with your conceptual framework, which are in alignment with your research objectives, right? So you are talking about the entire research methodology chapter in a way. Then you see about your quantitative data, okay, what are the methods that you're going to use after you collect the data? How would you analyze them? Explain it. You want to collect your data in a qualitative manner? Do explain the qualitative manner information. Do explain, have you conducted key informant interviews, or have you done a focus group discussion? And then how would you analyze them? Okay, so that are important information which must be shared in a research methodology chapter. Okay, well, in a skeleton wise, these are the minimum thing you should have in a research methodology. Of course, to this skeleton, you add up now your fleshes of academic writing. Well, if you think it was helpful to you, then do like the video, do share the video, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Until next time, with another eventful information from the ABCD, it's ciao from me.